Welcome to this very, very special edition of Afro Barn, live from the Steamboat Tavern. I'd just like to say thanks to Kev and Matsky for the last show. Some great tunes there. We're going to continue in that theme of electronic music from the UK. I'm very pleased to be joined by guests today. My name is Suitdancer, for those of you who don't know me, and you are on the Afro Barn as we journey through the world of soulful electronic music. Today I'm joined by three guests. First of all, I've got my son Theo. Say hello, Theo, to the camera. And we've also got Andrais joining us today, fellow DJ Mute Switch.
Hi Marcus, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for joining us today. And we've also got Michael Morrow, aka DJ
Hello.
Fusion. What we got to play today, guys?
Well, I really wanted to start with some drum and bass because it seemed to be what everyone's been playing in the last show. So I'm starting with a tune by Rob Solomon. I don't know. Obviously, we all know Rob, and
so for the people listening at home, Rob Solomon is producer par excellence from here in Ipswich, where we're from. He was a mentor of mine back in the days. He's working in the Central Selection Records with my cousin Diddy, who was one of the shop's owners. He put things out on Good Looking Records and was behind Rude Boy Records, and worked with a number of famous people who went on to become very, very big, including Rupert Fotek Parks, who used to work in the back room at the shop.
So Rob's still around as well. He literally lives just about 5 minutes from the pub here, just by the co-op. He used to have his studio as well along Worsted Road. So it was fantastic. LTJ Bookham and all of those guys, Groove Rider, they all used to come to his studio on Worsted Road.
That's true. Yeah. I've been there.
Just by the petrol station, and he was a pioneer in early breakbeat drum and bass music, and he went on to mentor like Fotek. And this is one of his very early productions. So. On Rude Boy Records, so here we go. God, hang on. Yeah.
tune there, great tune. So Andrais, tell us a bit more about that record. What if people want to get hold of it, can they?
I really don't think so. I think like Rob's back catalogue still needs to be digitally archived.
I've asked him to do it.
I know he needs to, because I think people really want that, and these records are so difficult to get hold of. Really still worth a lot of money.
Indeed.
You know, like the track like "Shine On," which was a massive tune of Rob's, went really big, and which I think was the first track that Rupert Parks produced with Rob in his studio. The pair of them worked together at the start, and Rob was actually one of the first people to teach Rupert how to use studio equipment, I believe. Don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that. That's a big. But
well, basically, I think the story goes Rupert got a Roland W30 sampling keyboard from Rob.
Okay.
And that's what he made all of the early Photech and the early studio pressure stuff on.
Yeah. So also as well, like talking of Rude Boy Records and Photech, that the little character was actually drawn by Rupert Parks. Who
a lot of people don't know he was a graphic designer.
He's a graphic designer. Went to college in Ipswich.
That's right.
Drew this little character here. I got him to confirm that as well. And yeah. Nice early breakbeat drum and bass before it went really dark, and
I liked it when it went dark myself. Best times.
So it's not on Discogs. Yeah, it's not on Discogs. Good records to find if you can find them.
All right. So just to answer what we just heard there, so I've got a record here from the same type of era, probably a year or so before. This is from Tech 9. For those of you who know, Tech 9 was an alias of Digo, one of my kind of favourite producers, one of my musical heroes. The man has been putting out quality music of all genres and pushing it forward for almost 40 years now, consistently. I play something by him in almost every single show. Also better known as Dennis McFarlane. You know, he's going to feature a few times today, and this track is from the Kingdom of Dub EP. It's sort of proto-jungle, bleed tunes, break beats. I mean, and the story goes with these guys, like a lot of UK producers, they were actually trying to make hip hop, and then they kept speeding it up and speeding it up and speeding it up, and it became what we now know as jungle, sort of breakbeat, kind of breakers music in the beginning. But then they started adding bleeps and more electronic sounds. They're influenced by Detroit techno, particularly Underground Resistance, and then it led to Reinforced Records, which was really a UK answer to Underground Resistance, you know, in the words of the people behind it. Right, so let's listen to Kingdom of Dub from the record Kingdom of Dub. This was the fifth release on Reinforced Records, and here's a white label version that I found at the time in Out of Time Records in Ipswich. So big up Chris, thank you for putting me onto this and selling me this record. Let's have a listen. So here we go.
Transient Radio.
Hi. So, what are we going to... So, we on? Okay.
Yeah, we're on, Ross. So, Michael, tell me, as someone who came to the game slightly later, can you dig those older tunes, or are they too basic?
Yeah, not so much. It doesn't... I suppose it was 97, 98 when I first started, and this being about sort of 4 or 5 years, 5, 6 years before that. It doesn't really grab me. Okay. No, I never felt the need to want to go back too far. Even like sort of mid-90s classic jungle, there's not a whole lot I've really got too excited about going back. It's more going forward from where I started. I find things that sort of really get me interested.
It's interesting you say that, because I got into it just say slightly earlier. But for me, I loved it because it was like an arms race, like a sonic arms race. Every week, someone would find out how to do something new with the sampler, and then that would be over a load of tunes. Then they'd find out something else, like time stretching. Then you'd hear a whole load of tunes which featured that, and it was interesting. It was almost like you were watching it evolve in front of you from this type of sound that we're listening to, which was sort of proto house, proto breakbeat stuff, into what we became known as jungle, and then on into what we came to know as drum and bass. Yeah.
What I do find interesting is how eclectic it was at the time. There was a particular mix I listened to recently, which I thought was a very good example, where you've got in one set, you've got like 4/4 hardcore, you've got sort of jungle to almost proto drum and bass. If you think like Valley of the Shadows or as like maybe R-Type, or they were really early, but you can still play those now. You don't have a pitching issue. Yeah. So there was such a variety within what people were accepting or playing or amalgamating in sets. Is interesting to hear.
It's true. I consider it a high watermark. So, you're listening to the Afro Barn here on Transient Radio, www.transientradio.net. Just want to big up everybody who's watching us on the live stream. Big up Anna, big up Maxi. We know you're watching somewhere, hopefully. And obviously big up my son Theo, who's here with us. Big up my guests, Michael and Andrais. Andrais, what are we going to hear next?
I just really wanted to go back to music that was produced in Ipswich, which is where we are at the moment. So when the track before Marcus's was on Rude Boy Records with Rob, and Rob and Photech used to work together. But this is Certificate 18, so this is possibly one of the first records that Studio Pressure, aka Photech, when he stepped aside and produced under his own aliases and onto Certificate 18, which is an Ipswich label.
So for the people listening at home, Certificate 18 was started by Paul Arnold, who went on to be the founder of Fat Records and is still operating in the music industry today, also a fellow Ipswichian. And this was a great label that put out some seminal records and also gave a lot of well-known producers their start, including Photech, including Digital as well. Clute as well, yep, let's not forget. Okay, so what are we going to hear now, Andrais?
I can't remember what this one's called. We'll have to pull it up when we finish and turn it over. I think this is let's just have a listen.
Okay, turn up that dial there. Here we go.
Jump.
It's Jump, yeah.
Okay, so a great track there. Jump.
Yeah, now I'm getting interested now.
All right, he's getting there. We're getting onto your timeline now. So, Theo, tell me what you felt about that track.
It's definitely the building blocks for a lot of stuff that I really like now, like Photech and Burial. And you can hear the sounds in here.
So that was the Photech himself, actually. That was one of his first records, his first ever records. And I knew him back then. He used to live above a post office around the corner from my house on Brantford Lane. So, yeah, a nice connection. And also, Photech, he gave me my very first copy of a computer program called Cubase, which allowed me to make music. So I've still got the disc at home, yeah. So he was like one of my mentors when it came to making music. He showed me how to do a lot of stuff, talked to me about doing a lot of stuff, because he worked in the back room of my cousin's record shop, Essential Selection, which was where this label was based. So, Andrais, just to round it off with the early Civica 18. So, were you buying this stuff at the time, or did you come to it sort of later on?
Like some of those last two tracks that we've played is really early 1990s. So I think I'll probably have collected some of that in the later on in life. But we obviously knew Rob Solomon, and I used to go to his studio a few times, and I used to see the label and all his records pinned up on his wall. And then I slowly started to collect those records. But yeah, the early stuff was probably a little bit before me. So I sort of came into drum and bass in the mid 90s probably, and that's really early 90s stuff. But
yeah,
a great sound, I think, really well produced.
Very well produced.
I love those records. It's just the breakbeat, the simplicity of it all, and good tunes, good old tunes.
I think there's something to be said for it, because back then you only had like a limited amount of sample time. You could only sample maybe for 30 seconds maximum. Not even that, some even less. And that would have been made on like a Roland W30, which only had 30 seconds of sample time for everything, all your drums, everything. So it's amazing, as you said, the economy of those records, the way they managed to squeeze so much out of so little. And I still use that as a kind of production philosophy now. You don't need so much. It's very easy to overproduce nowadays. Now we've got computers that are powerful and that can do anything.
Same goes for DJ mixes. Styles and times are changing with technology, and sometimes less could be more.
We've got to be careful though, we don't want to sound like the old farts.
But we are, and we know better, and that's just how it is, damn it.
You are listening to Transient Radio. You heard it from DJ Fusion himself. We're going to listen to another record from around the same sort of time. This was something on Planet Earth Records, which was a label that only ran for 2 years. It was Lemon D's label. You all know who Lemon D is if you're into your jungle and drum and bass. And he produced a track with J Magic, and they went under the name of Bass Junkies, and they only ever released one track under that name, and it was this track. And it was only available on a 4-track compilation, never been reissued, very hard to get hold of, but also one of my favourite tunes. This was from Lemon D's UK breakbeat and hardcore label, Planet Earth Records, and he closed the label down when he went on to Metalheads in 1994. And this track, I love it so much because it's a real sound system rattler, using a classic break, and really kind of getting you going on the dance floor. I love this tune. I love the tune for the big bass. So we're going to listen to Lemon D, J Magic, it's Bass Junkies, and the track is entitled Groove Me.
Transient Radio.
Transient Radio. Here with my special guests, DJ Fusion, Andrais, my son Theo. We're locked in for the next hour. You'll be listening to Lemon D and J Magic as the Bass Junkies. So Andrais, what we got next?
Just going to play a track by Reinforced Records again. This was a little special that came out via Bandcamp. So the Jacob's Optical Stairway album was reissued along with some of the other Reinforced albums by Mark Mac, like Parallel Universe and those. So this is a Jacob's Optical Stairway 7-inch, so 2 unreleased tracks from back in the day, made in the same time as that album. So I had to really message Mark to give me a copy of this, because this was only available if you bought the whole album, which I didn't want. I only wanted this, but he was good and he gave me a copy. So
but the album is very good, originally out on RNS Records, but just for those who don't know, Reinforced Records started in the early 90s in Dollis Hill, North London. And basically it was the home of so many great producers who went on to have great careers. So it's where you first saw productions from Goldie, obviously Mark Mac and Digo themselves, under a range of aliases, Mannix, Nicky Black Market, Doc Scott. It was like the kind of proving ground for UK hardcore drum and bass and jungle producers, basically. It was the finishing school. And it kind of gave birth to metalheads as well as a result. Without Reinforced, there wouldn't have been metalheads. And without underground resistance in Detroit, there wouldn't have been a Reinforced. As they clearly stated, that the label was their answer to like a UK underground resistance for people who are familiar with their Detroit techno. So let's have a listen. You're listening to Transient Radio. This is the Afro Barn, and we've been listening to Jacob's Optical Stairway on Reinforced Records. So staying with Reinforced, I've got to really talk up the label a little bit. One of my favourite labels that was so forward-looking at the time, and it really kind of made an impression on me as a young man. This next record I'm going to play is from a crew from the label called Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs because they were all artists on the label, but those artists happen to be one, Goldie, who we all know and love, Diego McFarlane, who you just heard some of his production just yet there, and Mannix. And as a 17-year-old, I read the sleeve notes of this record, and it really, really made an impression on me. So I'm just going to read it to you now, because that'd be great for you to get into the mindset of maybe a young DJ or producer in the 90s who worship these guys. So the first quote comes from Goldie, and he says, "The urban jungle is becoming more and more dense, more complex. The branches on the tree are becoming more and more integrated, and socially, the way I'm living is being affected by this system's change. Our music, to me, is a reflection of this, a way of confessing how we really feel, our moods, our soul, and our memories of still being young. Internal Affairs is our way of keeping us in check, looking towards ourselves in the hope that we'll find a way." And then Diego, this was the one that really, really struck me. "It's now the 1990s where science and technology are forever moving forward, and so should the London hardcore scene. Progress to new and higher levels with so many people releasing records nowadays is essential to sound different in some way or another. Internal Affairs is for the more mature music listener who can appreciate the smallest of details placed in a track. This is disciplined production in no hurry whatsoever. We've always tried to keep up a high standard and shift to a next gear up. Remember, anyone can make a record, but not everyone can make one well. This goes out to all the narrow-minded people who think that hardcore is about 180 BPM kids with no musical knowledge whatsoever. We paid our dues, so respect that." And then the last quote, short one from Mannix, was, "An affair between three artists, a project with internal sound, a sound with body, soul and shadow. A new dimension, music, an internal affair. If music has feeling, it will last forever. Whatever music, whatever label people give it, it will last all time." What do you guys think about that?
I think those guys were just on another level, weren't they? And I think just the whole technology that was coming about, the records they were producing, nothing was ever heard of that nature before. And forward thinking, Goldie's gone on to be an incredible artist, and that was the start of everything.
Yeah, I mean, for me, these guys pushed it forward and kept pushing it forward and keep pushing it forward. And I think that's the thing about UK music. But I also think that's the curse of UK music, particularly electronic music. We never let a style settle. We never let it grow and germinate. Whereas in Detroit, for example, you had Detroit techno that settled and became its own thing and has developed over the years, or dub techno. Whereas in the UK, we develop a sound, it's an amazing sound, and then we quickly just forget about it and move on to the next thing. Where it's nice if a sound is given time to breathe and germinate, but we're also in this constant arms race here in the UK as producers to come up with a new sound or something fresh.
Definitely. I think the electronic music scene is always progressing all the time. I think things could last like a few years, and then another sound would come along, another style of music, the dubstep, the broken beat. But what always happens is that the original sound is still there, and it still carries on. It's just something else. Just something else comes along, and it just branches out into another style of music.
Okay, so we've been talking about Reinforced Records. You listen to the Afro Barn on www.transientradio.net. You are now going to hear from Internal Affairs, a track entitled "In My Soul" on Reinforced Records from 1993. Here we go.
Transient Radio.
There you have it, Reinforced Records, Dollis Hill, London, Internal Affairs. So we're going to jump forward now because Michael's been sitting here very patiently as me and Andrais have been going down memory lane with our expensive Discogs records. Just for the record, I did buy it at the time when it came out. Please don't touch the vinyl. So Michael, what are we going to hear?
This was where it began for me. This is the first thing that caught my ear, being very much into my heavy metal at the time.
Oh, I remember you were a rocker, yeah, back in the days.
Yeah,
yes.
my first show on the community station in Ipswich was half heavy metal and half drum and bass.
This is Ipswich Community Radio. This is a place where many of us got our start. I got my start there in radio broadcasting, thanks to the likes of Isaac Toure and our friends at Castle Hill Community Centre. We then moved to Sorrel Horse Mews, and Michael was one of a crop of fresh-faced young people coming in who got taught how to use the studio and released onto the airwaves.
I'd like to think reasonably successfully.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not in terms
still doing
of
it now.
claiming achievement so much as I think proficiency.
Well, we did it for the love, and
Yeah.
we had a lot of fun over the years. When ICR first got started, it was Community Radio. We would do 2 broadcasts a year of 1 month. Do you remember? We'd get the FM license just for a month, and then we'd run pretty much 24 hours a day over the weekends, and I think it was from 8 to 10 p.m. during the week.
So this, as I said, the one that caught my ear, I was on a MVQ placement in an office, and it was up for a Mercury Prize, the album, so it's playlisted on Radio 1, and there was just something about it, I was a complete departure. Although, to be fair, to preface this, at that point I'd started listening to some of the Bristol sound and the trip hop.
Massive Attack and Tricky.
Yeah, and Sneak Pimps and
Oh, yeah.
Portishead. So I was already starting to, and John Peel's show was providing me quite a variety of things as well. So there was already something of a sort of a broadening in between. But in terms of primary focus and interest, if it's not drum and bass, it's heavy metal. It's always sort of been one of the overriding interests. This just
Can I just ask you about that? Because it's something I found very fascinating. I think it's about frequency ranges.
I think it's about energy.
The energy, right? Okay, yeah. I think you're onto something there. Because
And
I always liked drum and bass and jungle particularly because it had the same energy as punk records.
I mean, if you listen to a rock drum, the tempo is pretty similar. But I think as soon as you throw a big Amen in there, it's just something. I mean, I nearly brought Spirit Redial actually off a Metalhead's album because that was one I really wanted and got from Chris at Out of Time recently, Ipswich's preeminent second-hand record shop, and it's very heavy metal in the sound. I think it's real heavy, dark, and you throw Amens in. I think there's a real parallel, and there was in fact quite a lot of parallel crossover and use of breakbeats and remixes with the rock metal world and drum and bass in the late 90s. And you'd see a crossover in the club interest as well. I was lined out at the Astoria for a concert one time. Somebody had the Represent logo on their bag. So there was a lot going on for whatever reason. I think it's just the energy somehow.
It's true. I always felt that was why groups like The Prodigy did well in America. The frequency range and the energy is the same as rock music, I think. And there's definitely some kind of shared heritage there. And again, going back to the punk thing, there's a shared heritage. These were kids who didn't know how to use the instruments they had. They had samplers that they were working out how to use. A lot of those early records me and Andrais were playing, you could hear as people were working out how to do this. It was unfolding in front of us at the time.
And it was self-controlled.
Absolutely, yeah.
Largely speaking, it's independently owned, organised, and by the artists and creating their own labels and their distribution outlets and things.
It was almost like the sensibility of punk in the fact that we could do it ourselves, mixed with the business model of reggae and dub, where you would make your own records, press them yourself, go around with the records in the back of your car. I saw that so many times in the Central, someone would pull up in a car and it would be a famous producer who bought some records out, would speak to Rob and Diddy, yeah, we'll take 10, we'll take 20, whatever the case may be. And that's how the shops got stopped. By them. People would drive around with their own 500 press of records, make cash in hand, and make a lot of money. Those days are kind of coming back with Bandcamp now.
Yeah.
But you could make real money. I don't know if you guys recall, but back in the days, Rupert Fotek and Source Direct, they had a documentary made about them where they were driving around in the BMWs, and Rupert, I think, had a Ferrari then. The nice car, because he had made this off independent records. He started his label with a loan from the Prince's Trust. That's how the Photech 1 record came out, basically. The government paid for that, with the Prince's Trust.
That's not a dissimilar story with others. Am I thinking right? Was it? I don't know if it was Ronnie or Goldie or a name similar who benefited from sort of grants or similar schemes. I don't think that's a unique story in some way. Either.
So Ronnie Size, he got started through a youth club in Bristol, in Knoll West. Basically, they got some kit in his youth club, and then that's where he started making tunes. But enough talk from us. Let's get to the music. So what we're going to hear, Brown Paper Bag, original version?
This is straight up, I think it's probably, I think it was the vocal version I heard on Radio 1. Probably, I only say that because it's got a vocal and it's Radio 1. So, but this is the straight full album version, yeah.
Cool, let's go for it. Transient Radio.
It still works. I play this out. It still works.
Keep it locked.
Transient Radio.
Suitdancer on the Afro Barn. Special guests, Michael Morrow, aka DJ Fusion, Andrais, and Theo. We hope you're enjoying the sounds. We're having a great time ourselves here, live at the Steamboat Tavern, Ipswich. You will listen to Ronnie Size and Represent, Brown Paper Bag original version. From that wonderful moment when drum and bass went mainstream.
Transient Radio.
And if it hadn't, who knows if I'd have found it? I don't know. It was interesting in retrospect when I was listening to Pantera and Megadeth. The boys in the science class, I'd later realised were listening to sort of mid-90s jungle tapes on their Walkman. So it
what was this? Was this like Cool FM?
Oh, I don't know. It's only much later I started to realise that's what they were listening to in science class. But it was totally unknown to me at the time. So had this not got nominated Mercury and playlisted, would I have found it? Possibly. How and when? I've got no idea.
I think in Ipswich it was just in the water. You would have found this by osmosis. I mean, basically, there were so many producers here. This was a real kind of core place, a fundamental place for the scene, and we had one of the best record shops in the world, Red Eye Records. Big up Tom and the crew.
Still my regular.
Yeah, and also, if we're shouting out Red Eye, you've heard like the Reinforced records I've played. I've got to give a very, very big shout out to DJ Freedom, Claude. He was a mentor to so many of us in terms of putting us onto the most interesting music, the most vital music, the most cutting edge stuff. And he really schooled a lot of us. I've got to shout him out. Because he's a guy who I don't think gets enough. He doesn't get his props. Where he educated so many people musically in terms of going in the shop. Also, Spirit, R.I.P. He worked in Red Eye, and again, he was another guy who put me onto a lot of tracks, a lot of really, really, really good music.
Well, you come to realise just how fundamental Ipswich was. To some extent, is, and it's interesting. Some of those guys have returned. I think via Bristol and. It's the second track on that side. It's a double tracker. Bristol and I think Far East and maybe Australia and London. These people, Clue, Digital, Spirit. Previously, they were returning. They're back in the area.
Yeah, we're all back here. So just to do a quick plug, if you are in the Ipswich area, is it the 17th of April?
Wrecked, yeah,
Correct.
At the Baths.
At the Baths,
it's the
Ipswich.
Thursday of the bank holiday weekend.
And you can see Fabio, I do believe it, is it?
Yep, that's a very good venue, very good night. I went to, the first one was my last with Storm. Very varied demographic and sounds and styles. It was and kicking bass from Digital.
Definitely, yeah. Digital brought some of his sound. Also, give a shout out to Bright in the Corners, Marcus and Joe. I serve with them on the board of their organisation, and they've really helped revitalise the nightlife in Ipswich in terms of giving us a range of music venues where we can go and hear interesting stuff from across the span of genres. So what are we going to hear now, Michael?
This is on Samurai. This is the label for the last few years I've probably bought most consistently. They're coming with... There's always something new happening. I had a few records with me.
Where are they from? Where are they from? What's the story?
Well, Pressure is, I think, maybe still in New Zealand. I think there is something. I want to say a German connection, but... Or maybe he's in Germany now. I know he was in, if not still, New Zealand.
Okay.
But he's not a native of there. So that's as good an answer as I can give there off the top of my head. But the artists are from over, like Russia and I think Germany and UK. And the artists from different places. We're going on the second track on that one.
Okay.
You are there. I couldn't see it. It's all your hand there. There we go. And it's a funny colour and clear, which always helps when you try to read a record.
Of course. In a dark room.
They do like. There's a lot of that now. They do like their pretty patterns, colours, and fancy additions.
So, what is this track called?
It's called Izula.
Izula.
By
okay.
Ancestral Voices. I think this is a good example of their sound, although there are some variations. But generally speaking, I describe it as kind of minimal and tribal and percussive and rhythmic. There's some techno producers who have been coming on producing with their kind of aesthetic, but at the drum and bass tempo. Some of it's half time, some of it's quite dubby. You've got the Untouchables, quite strong with their dub sort of influence. But this is really, there's another one, there's all these little things that catch my ear every so often, and this is the most recent of this little scene, that sort of sound that's coming and coming different and just interesting me.
Okay, let's get into it. www.transitradio.net. Big shout out to Mac on the live stream there, holding it down for all those people watching at home. This is possible. He's currently munching on his snacks right now. But yeah, just want to give him a shout out, as he's been doing a wonderful job today, bringing us to you, the people. Okay, here we go.
Transient Radio.
33.
Transient Radio.
Loving those sounds, Michael. Loving those sounds. Samurai Records.
That's the one.
The artist's name is
Ancestral Voices.
Okay. So it'd be good to get an opinion from the younger members of our crew here. Theo, how's that tune striking you?
Definitely a lot different sounds from what we've been hearing in this session, and I really like it. Yeah.
I think he's right, and that's the thing about the broader scheme of when we say drum and bass and that family of things, is there's been so much progression and variety, and this is the thing that is always said, and it's held true, I think, that the more developed aspect of drum and bass now is a template upon which a great degree of variety can be placed.
As a genre, very flexible. It can go off in a lot of different directions. For me, I going back to what we were playing at the start, it's always been like a tree that's kept branching off and branching off and branching off and branching off. There's some shared DNA in there, but it always goes back to those original roots, I think, you know. So, we're inside the last 15 minutes. You're listening to Transient Radio. You're travelling on the Afro Barn with myself, Suitdancer, Michael Morrow, DJ Fusion, Andrais, and Theo. Coming up next, we've got one more track from Michael. What you got for us?
Well, I'm going to go with the autonomic then, if I've got one more. Something of a niche style within drum and bass. On a label that was quite short-lived, but I think was really the inception of it. And it's continued from quite a small number of producers, really. It still continues, but it's not very prevalent. As I say, autonomic, the name given by, I think, the people most known to be involved is Instrumental and D-Bridge.
D-Bridge, yeah.
Bad Company, yeah. So this is Instrumental and D-Bridge, a track entitled Translucent, the A-side there. It's very much influenced by really sort of 80s synthesizers, cinema, film soundtracks. Sort of
Giorgio Moroder sort of sound? Or you talk about Vangelis, Blade Runner?
Probably more the Vangelis than the Moroder, I think, maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Broadly speaking, is kind of the idea. I think it's just very evocative, very nice music. Basically, it catches my ear. It's just another one of those little splinters that comes off. These things that get me. Like, I've got some drum funk was in here. They're fairly niche. They're kind of on the borders, really.
So tell us for the people at home who might not know this track. What year did this come out? Is this current? Is this new?
Oh no, this is. I'd have to double check, but I guess it's going to be about 2007 or 8.
Okay, so a good 20 years ago, almost.
Guessing that way, yeah. And there was a few labels, not largely from D-Bridge and Instrumental, their own labels that continued and had some releases. And as I say, they're still going, but you won't find a whole lot of this kind of style and sound. But it's not done yet. But I feel it could be done more and should have been done more. It'd be nice, some of these things, if they flourished more broadly. But then maybe they wouldn't stay and continue as they are. Maybe I don't know whether it'd be good or bad.
Okay, well, let's get into it.
We'd just be glad we had any.
It's true. So after this, we're going to listen to this track. Then we're going to have one more from Andrais, and I think it's going to take us up to our time. You listen to Transient Radio. You listen to the Afro Barn.
Transient Radio.
inside our last tune shortly, and then coming up in about 5 minutes, we're going to have Bobby, Robbo, and Gethin bringing a fine selection of records. I just want to thank my guest today, Michael Morrow, aka DJ Fusion. We're going to be going into another track from Andrais, who's going to be taking us to the top of the hour. Before we do that, it's going to take us through it. Remember, all the tracks you've heard today are available somewhere in the world, either on Discogs, Bandcamp, or any other fine record shops. I recommend Red Eye Records in Ipswich or Out of Time Records. So, Andreas, what we got coming up?
So I just wanted to change the style a little bit. We've just been playing drum and bass for all that time.
We have, yeah.
So before drum and bass, some electronic music. So I've got Unique Free here, Rhythm Takes Control, which is a classic track.
What year? What year?
I reckon we're talking 1992, possibly, or 3, or something along those lines.
1990, according to the record.
There's a Unique Free, just a classic electronic band from Bedford, possibly, or somewhere like that, and their album is quite unique. It's got 2 different styles of music on there.
Yeah, I like their breakbeat stuff. I like their breakbeat stuff back in the day.
So half of it's like hip hop, half of it's breakbeat, which is quite an unusual concept.
Well, it harks back to what I was saying earlier, where a lot of these people who ended up making what became hardcore and jungle were trying to make hip hop. The Ragged Twins and Sharp and Dance were the prime example of that. You know, they sped the breakbeats up and it became something else, something really interesting.
And there's another group actually very much on the same timeline as that, very much unique and forward-thinking electronic-wise.
Local as well.
Plaid. So I wanted to play some records by this, but we didn't have time. This is Plaid, local producers. Copies of this about a year ago were like going for £100. You still got to pay loads of money for this now. I think the guys are from Framlingham. I could be wrong.
They're local, yeah. They're linked to the Black Dog as well. So
linked to Black Dog.
There's a local link. Plaid, they put a lot of good music over the years.
I wanted to play that. I haven't got time to play that, but I want to play Unique Free. Maybe if we've got time, we'll play one after that. So
Andreas, I will say it now, will be starting his own radio show soon. So you're going to hear lots more music like this as we go forward. He's going to hear him here on Transient Radio. Isn't that right? inside the sounds of Unique 3, early Bleak classics. We got one more track from Andrais today here on the Afro Barn. Transient Radio. What are we going to hear?
I just want to, like, all this sort of bleep techno breakbeat. A lot of the stuff that we've been hearing now is really early 1990 kind of.
It's true.
From that period.
Yep.
But that sound is still being made today. So this is a new tune, or recently by a guy called Justice, who produces quite a lot of records of that style. Releases them all on Bandcamp. Nice little small run editions. Great little tunes.
All right, let's hear it. Let's go for it.
There's a lot of fluff on that needle.
Transient Radio.
Transient Radio, you listen to the Afro Barn. So I'm going to play us out with a track from the Shameless Plug department. This is Fair Parish's remix of a track that myself and my good friend Simon Finnegan made. Illusion by us, Tone Control. We got approached, first of all, funnily enough, by Alex Attias, who wanted to remix the track, and then in turn by Fair Parish. Or Wolf Music approached us and said, we'd like to reissue Illusion. Is there anyone you'd like to remix? And we said, yep, we'd want Fair Parish to do it. So for me, when that happened, it was a nice kind of full circle moment where someone I always looked to as a kind of a don in this music, was actually remixing one of our tracks. So it was, again, a very, very nice moment for me, and a nice moment for Simon too. So we're going to put this on because it's nice and long, and it will give Bobby a chance to get ready for his show. Bobby and Robbo coming up next, holding it down on Transient Radio, www.transientradio.net. Don't forget, go to the website, go and have a listen again, go to our Mixcloud and see what's up there. You can find a whole host of great music every weekend, first weekend of the month, Saturdays and Sundays, we're broadcasting. Keep it locked, keep it live, keep with Transient. Celebrating our first birthday, make it down to the Steamboat Tavern tonight if you are in the Ipswich area. Again, I'd like to thank my guests. Thank you, Theo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andreas.
Cheers, Marcus. Much appreciated.
And thank you, Michael.
Thank you for having us. You're very welcome.
Okay, and big up Bobby, big up Leroy, big up all Transient crew, big up our guests in the studio. Thank you very much. Okay, playing this out with Illusion. Here we go.
Come on, yeah.